Hello everybody, it's Nancy News here, and today we've got a lot of breaking dates today. So in this day's video, we will be recapping a little bit of news that's happened previously in the past 2 days. So let's just get right into it. So today the news is coming from Russia. So we've got news today that Moscow is now asking for direct flights to resume between Russia and the United States. So the Russian negotiators have asked their American counterparts to consider reopening US airspace to Russian aircraft and to restore direct flights between the two countries, the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Friday. So the ministry said that the request was made during the bilateral meeting in Istanbul, Turkey, which we discussed a couple of days ago. And within the Istanbul, Turkey talks, the topic came up to improve bilateral relations between the Russian Federation and the United States by resuming direct flights. So, very big news. So, the Americans said they will be considering it. So, in the next probably weeks or months, we'll get an answer if the United States will be ordering for direct flights between the Russian Federation and the United States. We've also got some news today that Toyota is apparently re-entering the Russian market. So Toyota, the car company, plots a comeback into the Russian market, and apparently there was a secret Russian and Toyota meeting in the United Arab Emirates in the UAE about Toyota re-entering the Russian markets. So Toyota is apparently very serious about re-entering the Russian market, and have a big budget to allocate to it. And apparently Toyota hopes to actually re-enter the Russian market by the end of 2025, so this year. So Toyota plots a comeback to the Russian market, and it's projected that Toyota will be fully re-entered into the Russian market by the end of 2025 this year. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Ukraine. So we've just gotten some news today that apparently the President of the United States, Donald Trump, has completely ordered a pause on all military aid for Ukraine, according to Bloomberg. So, according to breaking news from the White House, Fox News, and other news agencies, Trump has paused and now is reviewing all military aid heading to Ukraine. So, all military equipment not currently in Ukraine will be paused, including weapons in transit, on aircrafts, ships, or waiting in transit areas in Poland. So Ukraine, according to the White House statements, Ukraine's aid pause will not stop until Ukrainians show a good commitment of good faith in peace negotiations. So America will not give Ukraine military equipment until Ukraine shows good faith in negotiations with Russia in ending the war in Ukraine. And according to European officials, the Trump administration decision in the pause of military aid to Ukraine is petty and wrong. So if you can see this graphic in your bottom left corner, we can see the countries sending the most military aid to Ukraine, and obviously the United States is ahead by a long margin. And if obviously the United States pauses this military aid, then obviously Ukraine will most likely suffer some bad consequences of these actions from the Americans. So. And we've just gotten some news today that the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says that he regrets of what happened at the White House and calls to strengthen relations with the United States. So just after America announced that it will be pausing all military equipment to Ukraine, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy publicly announced that he regrets and apologized of what happened at the White House between himself, J.D. Vance, and Donald Trump. So in his apology address, the President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy, also announced that Ukraine is ready to sign the mineral deal after, obviously, Zelenskyy said he is now ready to work with President Donald Trump to end the war with Russia. So very big news come today. So the US is now ceasing all military aid to Ukraine, and Zelenskyy is now apologizing to the President of the United States. So big news. We've also gotten some news today that Donald Trump stated that Europe has spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine. So this decision, that statement probably kind of pushed him to cease the military aid to Ukraine. So interesting news. We've also gotten some news today coming from Slovakia. The Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico has just announced that Slovakia will not provide financial or military aid to Ukraine. He emphasized that an immediate ceasefire should be part of the EU summit agenda on March the 6th, regardless of whether a final agreement is reached. So the Prime Minister of Slovakia is now saying that Slovakia will not provide any financial or military aid to Ukraine, and now is urging EU states and EU countries to try and mediate a ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. And we've also gotten some statements coming from the Czech Republic's president. So the Czech Republic's president stated that the time has come to start considering a broad coalition of willing for just peace in Ukraine. Peace on terms of the aggressor is called a capitulation and would only encourage all current and future aggressors. The free world must stand up to evil. So there's been some rumors around Europe that Europe is considering starting up its own NATO-style defense alliance. So according to some rumors we've gotten, the UK, France, Poland, Germany, Romania might be considering, and maybe Finland might be considering creating its own NATO defense alliance with Ukraine to try and protect it from Ukraine without Ukraine joining NATO. So interesting news, but again, that's all rumors, so it's not proven. We've also gotten some news today that the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban stated that Ukraine is effectively on life support. If the US and the EU do not support it, it will not survive. So that's all the news we've gotten from Ukraine today. And the next news today is coming from Estonia. And if you remember 3 weeks ago in a video, we discussed how Estonia and the Baltic states cut itself from the Russian energy grid, which according to the European leader von der Leyen, it would support Estonia's and the Baltic states' independence from Russia, and it seems that now these side effects are taking place. So Estonia cut itself off the Russian power grid for 19 days now, and since then electricity prices have skyrocketed from 62 euros to 196 euros per megawatt. So electricity prices have skyrocketed in the Baltic states, so these states here in Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia, due to these countries leaving the electricity grid of Russia. The next news today is coming from Norway. So a large Norwegian ship fuel company called Holtback Bunkers have announced on its Facebook page that it would stop refueling US naval ships after the clashes between the United States and Ukraine in the White House. So in addition, they have called on other European companies to do the same. So some Norwegian fuel companies are now refusing to refuel naval shipments and naval destroyers of the United States Navy. So interesting news. We've also got some news today that Germany is now planning a huge 450 billion special fund for defense. So Germany is about to spend a huge amount of money to re-fit its military. So Germany is planning to spend 450 billion to maybe even 700 billion dollars on its military to try and refit and reorganize its military and restock its military. So very big news. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Serbia. So we've gotten some news that a brawl has sparked out in the Serbian parliament as opposition throws smoke, grenades and tear gas in the Serbian parliament building. So the Serbian opposition deputies started a fight inside of the parliament to protest government policies and show support for protesting students. So demonstrations led by students and opposition groups have gripped Serbia since November, following the deadly collapse of the railway station roof in Novi Sad. So the president of Serbia, Aleksandar Vučić, has insisted that the protesters are foreign funded and part of a plot to destabilize the government. But right now, brawls are taking place in the Serbian parliament, and the opposition force is throwing tear gas and flares in the parliament building. So interesting news, and this is all for protest about corruption in the Serbian government, and for and protests of decision makings and policies of the Serbian government. And the next news we've got today is coming from the Vatican City, and we've got some reports that the Pope has just had 2 episodes of acute respiratory failure. The Vatican reports. So just hours of the Pope being put off the ventilation of oxygen, the Pope suffered 2 acute respiratory failures. So respiratory failure happens when something keeps your body from getting oxygen into your blood or getting carbon dioxide out of your blood. So, according to Vatican reports, the Pope is still in a bit of a critical condition, and Italy, Switzerland, and other countries are still rehearsing the Pope's funeral. So, right now, while the Pope is in hospital, there's rehearsals going on when the Pope obviously passes away, because he's still in a critical condition. So, interesting news. We've also got some news today that Morocco has just received its first batch of AH-64 Apache attack helicopters from the US. So, if you can see here in your bottom left corner, Morocco receives its first batch of AH-64E Apache helicopters in the Royal Moroccan Air Force, and it's preparing to use these in the near future. So Morocco receives its first batch of the AH-64E Apache helicopter. And the next news we've got today is coming from Israel, and more specifically coming from the Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. So Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, has just agreed to a US proposal to extend the Gaza ceasefire for 50 days, including the immediate release of half of the Israeli hostages, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated in a video address posted on X. So let's just go through his key points in his video address on X. So Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, stated that Donald Trump is the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House. Israel fully supports Trump's Gaza plan for relocation of Palestinians through to Egypt, Jordan, and Morocco for reconstruction of Gaza. The Witkoff plan includes the immediate release of half of the hostages. If Hamas continues holding hostages, Israel will take further action, and Israel has just announced that it has halted the entry of humanitarian supplies to Gaza again, allying that Hamas steals them. So Hamas has yet again is blocking humanitarian aid in Gaza, stating that Hamas uses this humanitarian aid to regroup and reorganize and re-strengthen. So interesting news. And the next news we've got today is coming from Syria, and coming from the Kurdish rebel groups in northern eastern Syria. So we've got news today that the Kurdistan Workers' Party, so the PKK, has just declared to lay down arms and end the hostilities against Turkey, ending a 46-year-long border conflict after the PKK founder called for the disarmament and the dissolvement of the party. So the Kurdish rebel group in northern eastern Syria has apparently declared the end of hostilities against Turkey. And when I say Turkey, I mean Turkey. So it doesn't mean like the Syrian HDS rebel groups that's taken charge of Syria. So The PKK rebel group, the Kurdish forces in northern eastern Syria, will continue to fight the Syrian forces, but have apparently agreed to lay down the arms and hostilities against Turkey. So I've seen some sources that are saying that this is untrue, but I'm seeing a majority of sources are stating that the Kurdistan Workers' Party has just declared to lay down arms and end the armed hostilities against Turkey. So I will keep you updated on that. We've also gotten some clashes near Syria's coast. So the French Defense Ministry has just published footage of a close encounter between a Russian Su-35S fighter jet, which took off from the Krim air base, and a French MQ-9 Reaper UAV in the skies over the Mediterranean Sea on March the 2nd. So you can see this video here in bottom left corner. Near the Syrian coast, a Russian Su-35 S fighter jet intercepted an American MQ-9 Reaper drone that was observing, I'm pretty sure, Syria's coast. The Russian fighter intercepted it, but nothing really happened, so the Russian fighter didn't obviously shoot it down. But the French Defense Ministry stated that this was unprofessional, so what the Russian fighter did. So apparently the Russian fighter actually intercepted the French drone more than 3 times, so very interesting. And while on the topic of MQ-9 Reaper drones, we've also gotten some reports that Yemen has shot down a $30 million American MQ-9 drone, the first of Trump's return in office. So the Houthi forces have just destroyed a $30+ million MQ-9 Reaper drone with a locally made surface-to-air missile. So the Houthi forces have actually released the footage of the exact moment of the Houthis destroying the American drone. So again, this is the first MQ-9 Reaper drone that the Houthis have shot down under the Trump's administration. So we'll see if Trump bites back. And the next news we've gotten today is coming from Afghanistan, where we've got news that the Taliban officials have just rejected Donald Trump's statement and request to return the $7 billion worth of US military equipment left behind in Joe Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal back to the United States. So obviously the Taliban have outright rejected Donald Trump's request to return the $7 billion worth of US military equipment that was left behind in America's withdrawal of Afghanistan. And we've also gotten some reports today that there are some clashes ongoing between Afghanistan and Pakistan on the border near the city of Torkham, so this city here. So there's been some clashes that have been reported, and at least one person has been killed as Pakistani and Afghan security forces have traded fire at the recently closed main border crossing between the two countries. So Afghanistan's Ministry of Interior Affairs has just confirmed on Monday that one member of its security forces had been killed and 2 have been injured in the overnight clashes at the Torkham crossing. So there's been clashes between the Pakistani and Afghan army, where at least one Afghan soldier has been killed and 3 Pakistani soldiers have reportedly been killed. So this has been confirmed by Afghanistan's Ministry of Interior Affairs and Pakistanis. We've also gotten some big news today coming from China. So we've just gotten news today that China says that it will raise its defense spending by 7.2% in 2025 to $245 billion. So China is now going to be raising its defense spending by 7.2% in 2025 to $245 billion. We've also just gotten some breaking news today that China has apparently made a breakthrough in quantum computers. So Chinese scientists have apparently unveiled a superconducting quantum computer prototype named Zonshi with 3.0 with 105 qubits on Monday. So marking a breakthrough in China's quantum computing advancements. So the achievement also sets a new record in quantum computeral advantage within superconducting systems. What will this mean for tech stocks like Nvidia and other tech stocks? So China has unleashed its new quantum computer prototype, so very huge advancement in technology in quantum computers. We've also got some news coming from Taiwan today and China. So Taiwan has actually reported an increased Chinese military activity. So as of 6 a.m. today, 10 Chinese People Liberation Army's aircraft, 6 Chinese vessels, and 4 official Chinese ships were detected around Taiwan. 9 aircrafts actually crossed the median line, entering Taiwan's southwestern and southeastern median line zones. So Chinese aircrafts have been kind of going into Taiwanese medium zones like this. So it goes through a little bit, crosses into it, and gets back out of it. So we've gotten reports that at least 9 Chinese military aircraft entered the Taiwanese red line medium zone here. So very big news. And the Chinese People's Liberation Army's activity around Taiwan through February 2025 has seen up to a 40% surge in aircraft operations compared to January last year. And the next news we'll be talking about today is coming from the Philippines, where we've got news that the Philippines Air Force has confirmed a loss of one of its fighter jets, an F-A-50. So the Philippines Air Force have just confirmed on Wednesday, the March the 5th, that search teams have just located the wreckage of an F-A-50 fighter jet that went missing on Tuesday night while patrolling at night. So, tragically, the both pilots that were operating the fighter jet were found dead along with the crash site. So the wreckage was discovered in the vicinity of Mount Kalatungon in the complex on Wednesday following a full-scale search and a rescue operation that involved over 100 personnel, according to the Filipino Air Force. So the Philippines have lost a fighter jet when it was doing its night operation, and a full investigation has been launched on the wreckage and the downing of this fighter jet. It could have been a technical issue, or it could have been anything. And the next news we've got today is coming from Brisbane, Australia, the coast city here. We've got news that Brisbane braces for its first cyclone in over 50 years. So around 330,000 sandbags have been deployed, plus 20,000 homes face life-threatening floodings due to this cyclone. So Brisbane is about to experience its first cyclone in over 50 years, and I'll keep you updated on the results of that. And the last news we've gotten today is coming from the United States, and it seems the trade war between the United States and China has just started. So we've just got news today that the US President Donald Trump has just announced 25% tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and 20% tariffs on China to officially take place. So the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau condemned Trump's, he stated, unjustified 25% tariffs, and says that retaliation tariffs on $155 billion of American goods will take place at 12:01 a.m. if the US moves forwards tonight with the tariffs. So, according to the Premier of Canada's Ontario province, Doug Ford, he announces a ban on all US-based companies from bidding on government contracts, and he also confirmed that Canada will be confirming the cancellation of Starlink contract. So, very big news. The next news we've gotten is that China has imposed 15% retaliation tariffs on the United States. So China announced additional levies on 15% on chicken, wheat, corn, cotton, 10% on soybeans, pork, beef, seafood, fruits, vegetables, and dairy. So China has hit back with huge tariffs of itself on the United States. And also we've got news that China has also filed a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization over US President Donald Trump's tariff increase. So, according to the Chinese embassy in the US, if war is what the US wants, be it a tariff war, a trade war, or any other type of war, we are ready to fight it to the end. So apparently China is ready to fight this trade war between the United States and Canada, the United States and China to the end. And we've also got news coming from the Panama Canal that Panama Canal's port has just been sold to BlackRock in a victory for Donald Trump. So BlackRock officially now has bought the Panama Canal off the Chinese businesses. So very big news. And that's all the news I've gotten for you today. I'm Non-Scene News. I'll try and provide you news that medias around the world do not show you. I do these videos hopefully daily, so consider subscribing and liking. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye.